Recording started. Good evening, everyone. I'm Pam Evans. I'm with Family Service and Guidance Center. We are so glad that you joined us tonight for this month's edition of Real World Parenting. As you may know, FSGC specializes in treating kids who are struggling with mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, ADHD, and the whole gamut of issues like that. But tonight is for you all. We are really pleased to be offering these monthly parenting workshops to the whole community, as we completely understand that parenting in this day and age is certainly not an easy task at all, and especially during the past several months. Real quickly, I feel like it's necessary to lay some ground rules for tonight's discussion because there are so many different views and opinions and a lot of strong ones about schools reopening. You know, the homeschooling versus in-person school, masks, no masks. That's not what we're here for tonight. Tonight, we are going to be specifically talking about how you can help your child transition back into the school year, no matter which option your family chooses. So once again, you know, please help us stay in that realm this evening. We are going to have time for questions. And we just appreciate you taking the time out of your evening to join us. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jenny Watson, who is the School-Based Services Manager here at Family Service and Guidance Center. So Jenny, take it away.
Right. Well, thank you, Pam. And I just kind of want to reiterate what she's already mentioned. I want to thank you all for being here and opening up your homes and your Zoom accounts to spend a little bit of time with us. And I will talk with you about, you know, kind of what ideas, thoughts, and structure we can build for our kids to have a successful school year. As Pam had kind of already mentioned, there are certain areas that when I excitedly agreed to teach this class back in January, you know, I had no idea that this is what we were going to be looking at. I mean, I don't think any of us a few months ago would have anticipated being in this spot today, having to make some pretty hard decisions with not a lot of information and a ton of unknowns. So when I was revamping the structure of tonight's class, it was really built around, given what we know today. Everybody's districts may be a little different. Everybody's going to have, you know, specific and unique needs for their children, for their families. And as Pam had mentioned, I'm happy to try to help out with, you know, the questions that I can help with at the end. But really wanted to kind of just share some guidance and pretty broad ideas, thoughts, and things that you guys can do as parents starting today to help your kids have a better and more successful school year. So, helping our children transition back to school. And as Pam said, I am the School-Based Services Manager here at Family Service and Guidance Center. I supervise a group of clinicians and case managers that work primarily in the school. And we serve all the districts here in Shawnee County, and happy to do so. All right. So as I mentioned, I revamped this presentation, given that when I had first agreed to it and when we first started talking about it, we weren't living in a worldwide pandemic. Most school districts are starting to release information around what they're going to be offering for their students and families to consider in regards to registering their kids for school this year. Some are offering variations of this, but most are offering some combination of either exclusively in person, exclusively virtual or hybrid. You know, everything we've looked at, everything I've seen, you know, is very clear to not call it homeschool versus virtual, because our traditional homeschool programs are very different than what is going to be utilized through the school districts with this virtual learning. And as I was, again, preparing this presentation for tonight, you know, really when I'm thinking about what can we control as parents, because, you know, I'll be honest, guys, I'm in the same boat. You know, my husband and I are having conversations right now about what are we going to do. And I'm thinking about what do I have control over, and whether we go this decision, or this decision, a lot of what he and I as parents have control over is a little bit the same for all three right now. And it was more similar than I thought. When I really just boiled it down, it was a lot more similar than I had anticipated. One of the things that is going to be more key now than ever before is communication and flexibility. You know, one of my mentors, one of the ladies that used to work here for a lot of years, Nancy Crago, if anybody is familiar with our agency or has ran into her before, knows that she's a very wise woman. You know, she said a lot of the world's problems can be solved by good communication, and she's not wrong. You know, how many times have we had to sit down and have tough conversations with our friends, our families, our children? And once you get through that hard communication, sometimes you can come to a resolution. Maybe not everybody's happy, but we can find something on the other side of that. So the more we plan for good communication, change, and being flexible, the more successful it's going to be. Again, because so much of what's going on right now is very much outside of the control of people like us. What else do I want to say about that? Oh, expect it to be painful at times. You know, expect it to be rough. When it's kind of sometimes the stuff that we don't see coming that can cause the most damage. But when we know that there's going to be hard stuff ahead of us, and we can try to brace for impact in some capacity, there's benefit to doing that. On the same token, you know, let's not miss what's happening in front of us right now. You know, let's not be so worried about what's coming that we miss the beautiful parts of today. And, you know, putting all of that into perspective is really, really important. We should definitely know that people are going to have different opinions, and some are going to be very, very strong. Those might align beautifully with your own, or they may be very, very different. But regardless of where that all sits, we need to remember that we're people first, and that, you know, each family and each situation is making choices and decisions based on their special and unique circumstances. Some people have more or different resources, or more or different challenges than others. And so one of the things I would really, really want to emphasize tonight is to just be kind to one another and try not to judge other people's decisions, you know, because everybody's doing the best that they can right now. Some of that is, you know, like I said, perfectly aligned with what you would do, and some of it's not, and that's okay. We don't have to justify our decisions to each other. We have to be able to rest well at night knowing we made the best decision we could, given some pretty unappealing options. I don't think anyone would choose for this to be the situation that they're in, you know, the decisions they have to make for their families and their kids, but this is where we're at. There is no good choice right now. If there was good choices, they'd be easy and we wouldn't be struggling with them so much. So I developed a list of the things. What can we as parents do? What are tasks? Because I'm a list person. I was actually getting teased just the other day because I still carry and it's over there, I'm not going to grab it, but I still carry a paper planner, and I write down my appointments. I physically write it in a book with a pencil because I like to do that. And when I make a list, I write it out with a pencil and a paper, because one of the most gratifying things in the world is to cross it off or mark it out when it's done. There's just something great about that. Everybody else was pulling out their phones in this meeting I was in on Tuesday night, and here I am with my pencil and paper. Doesn't matter. it works for me. So I made these lists, and I'm sure you guys have already read them because that's what we do when we have things in front of us. And you can see that the lists are exactly the same. And I was not trying to be condescending or flippant when I made this list, but these are the things we can do. You know, whether we're in a traditional classroom setting, the online virtual setting, or a hybrid, you know, kids have fun getting their school supplies. You know, I was just talking to one of my case managers earlier today, and I said, man, you know, it's just bizarre. I'm looking at the calendar. It says it's almost August. I feel like we should be doing X, Y, and Z and getting ready for school, but we're not because it's not getting started until later, and we don't even know what that looks like. But for children, especially, I mean, depending on their ages, especially, you know, they're not looking at the calendars much, but they're looking for events to be happening. So we all talk about new normal and trying to develop a sense of normalcy for our kids. Well, part of that is going to buy school supplies, you know, writing, and even if you're going to do online or virtual, having those new pencils and new notebooks, that's going to get them excited about opportunities to learn and get their heads in the right headspace to be in school. This next one, develop a schedule. And again, I know that you don't know all the answers yet about what that's going to look like, but you could start thinking about what might happen. You know, if this, then that. You know, if we choose traditional classroom, what time do we need to get up in the morning? Are we going to have breakfast at home or breakfast at school? And start thinking about what that looks like. It takes the average brain about 3 weeks to commit to a real change. So again, every district's different with their date of when they start school. But if you look at the first day of whatever school's supposed to be and go back 3 weeks, like we're all getting pretty close. So start thinking about that now. And it takes 3 weeks, like at minimum. For some, it takes a lot longer. And if we're trying to get into a routine and develop some sort of schedule, the sooner we start, the more successful we're definitely going to be. Creating a safe and quiet place to learn and study, that's going to be important no matter where you're at, because, you know, we don't know what is to come. You know, if we start in the traditional classroom and can stay all year, perfect. If not, you've already got your space established. You know, I don't know if any of your homes are anything like mine, but in March we were scrambling. We were scrambling to make it work. And everybody did the best they could, and we all survived it. But now here we are knowing that this thing kind of lurks in the shadows and may come again regardless. And so just being prepared for that in a calm and kind of reasonable way is going to be important. And, you know, again, if you're in traditional classroom, they may have homework, they may have other things to do. So having a safe and quiet place to learn and study is going to be really important. The piece I forgot to mention so far is, remember guys, these are just broad strokes. You are the experts on your kids. You know that my 8-year-old really needs quiet because that's what she needs for her brain to learn and focus and stay on task. My 13-year-old, he needs to listen to music. I don't have enough space in my house for them to have 2 separate spaces, so I'm going to buy some, you know, earbuds for him so that he can listen to music, she can have quiet, and they're in a similar space. You know, it doesn't have to be, life is not a one size fits all. It just isn't. And so don't stress yourself out or worry too much about that, because it's about finding what works for you, your family, and your kids. Practicing safety and hygiene procedures. Again, important whether you're in a traditional classroom or doing the online and virtual stuff. You know, today when the weather was completely wild here in Topeka, I was looking out the window and I was remembering a time where I was here at the agency years ago, and the tornado sirens went off because it was similar to that, in that, you know, the wind was blowing and the rain was hitting the windows. And, you know, so anywhere we're at, having safety procedures, fire drills, tornado drills, you know, those are smart things to do for the safety of our family, whether we're at home or school, home or traditional school. And these, you know, the hygiene procedures, again, it's just becoming more and more relevant for the ongoing safety, and whatever hygiene procedures mean to you. Like Pam said, it's not necessarily a debate over mask or no mask or any of those things, but we teach our kids to, what was appropriate hygiene pre-COVID. We sneezed in our elbows, we washed our hands. Those are things we teach our kids how to do. It's important skills that they aren't necessarily born with. All right. Other things that we can do to help our kids feel prepared. Things to keep in mind, again, broad strokes. Reassurance that your child is safe. And I know that goes without saying. However, as much as we try to create a new normal, our kids are going to realize that things in the world are different. When they go places, the things that are on TV, it looks different. And if anybody's familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of need, it's that triangle that says you got to have this to build on this, to build on this, to build on this. Safety, food, water, shelter, and safety are the basic foundations for any human being, any person. So if our kids don't feel safe, even if they are, but if they don't feel safe, it's going to be hard for them to learn no matter what setting they are in. So giving that reassurance that they are safe is huge. Asking them questions, do you have any worries about X, Y, or Z? Are there things you're thinking about that you have questions about? And offering them opportunities to ask those of you. And it's okay to say, I don't know the answer to that, bud. I just don't know, but let me see what I can find out. Or asking them, what would help you feel better about it? I was on a conference call earlier this week, and we were talking about the reality is even the kids going back to seated classes, they haven't been in school for a really long time. It's been almost 6 months. And so they might have a little bit of apprehension or worry. They might be really kind of digging this extra time with mom or dad or grandma or whoever. So it doesn't have to be the obvious things that we might be thinking about for safety, but kid brain is a beautiful place. And learning what they're worried about or what their safety concerns are is going to be really important. Another conversation I had earlier today on reassurance that everything is going to be okay. I don't know what okay looks like, but I have to believe and hope that when this is all over, and again, I don't have a calendar for that either. I don't know what that looks like or when it's going to come, but it's going to be okay. Our educators care about our kids being educated. Parents care about their kids being educated and safe. That's part of why you're all here. And we're going to do what we need to do for them and for ourselves and for our family. So if that means your kid falls a little bit behind in a topic, that's okay. There's ways to help with that. If that means that they struggle a little bit with some socialization or some behavior skills, that's okay too. As long as we all make it to the other side of this together, it's gonna be okay. And telling our kids, giving them that, again, that reassurance of, I don't know what that looks like either, but I promise you, what I can promise you is you're not alone. I'm here to help you. We've done hard things before, and this is one of those hard things that we're gonna do together again. And the good news is you don't have to figure it out all by yourself because I'm here to help you. Those kind of statements, and then we back it up with then being present and being responsive when they have questions or want to have a talk about something. But those kind of statements really resonate in their minds that I'm not alone in this. I've got help. And we assume that they know that kind of stuff, and kids tend to not want to burden parents, especially if they see us stressed out. I'm going to get to this in a minute, but they're watching us. They've been watching us since day one, and we set the tone. We as parents absolutely set the tone. So if we're stressed out and I'm not saying that you're not allowed to have the feelings you have. Goodness knows I do. And we have to be sincere. We have to be genuine. And, we have to present to our kids that we've got this. And if we don't, we're going to figure it out together. Utilizing good communication and flexibility. I feel like I've said that once before, maybe 10 times already, but I just cannot emphasize it enough. I think about early in my parenting years, some of the really obscene power struggles I got into. And then I'm like, wait a minute, like I'm negotiating with a 3-year-old over carrots. Like, this is silly. What? Stop. Like, you're the adult, you stop. And this is all internal monologue here. You can be flexible around carrots, Jenny. Like, stop. And I'll tell you, I've been a staff person, provider here at this agency for a lot longer than I've been a parent. So I know better, but I still did it. So, really, when you find yourself in that moment of, do I draw my line in the sand here or not? I implore you, take a step back and think about it from that perspective of, is this a big deal? It feels big right now. It feels really big right now. But is this a big deal? Or is this something that with my support structure, my resources, and my family, my friends, my kids, whoever, is this something we can overcome? And if it's a big deal, do what you got to do. But if it's not, let it go. There's going to be other things that come back, and you want to save that energy, for the bigger fight that's coming, or the bigger problem, or the bigger issue. Otherwise, you'll wear yourselves out. Work to get back on a schedule. I mean, bedtime is real loose in my house. It's just kind of when things stop. And sometimes things don't stop till real late. And so, like I said, takes on average 3 weeks to build that up for most people. And the sooner you can get back, this is when I'm talking about a schedule, I'm mostly talking about bedtime, get up time. I mentioned earlier that I supervise case managers and clinicians that work primarily in the school setting. Well, when we're not in school, they're community-based. And a lot of them went from working like from 8 in the morning till 5 or 6 to seeing their first kiddo around 10, noon, 1, because kids are staying up till 3, 4 in the morning doing whatever they do and not getting up until noon. So that shift to back to going to bed at a decent hour, getting up in time to be able to make the call is going to be tricky. All right. So expectations. This is talking about setting realistic and age-appropriate expectations. I'll come back. Sorry, guys. I need to, I guess, put a sign on my door. She wants to vacuum in here. Expectations. It's setting realistic, age-appropriate expectations for yourself, your children, and your school districts in the coming months. We're still hearing details about what the fine details of how much screen time they're going to have to do with computer and online learning. We're hearing details about how often and how long kids are going to be expected to do different things. If you're not sure what is an age-appropriate expectation, the best person to check with, the best person to ask is really your kid's pediatrician. They have resources on age-appropriate developmental milestone type stuff. But again, don't forget, you're the expert on your kids. You know whether 15 to 20 minutes of sitting in a seat and working on something, if that's doable for them or not. If they're able to work with earbuds in or not, so keep those things in mind, and also set real expectations for yourselves. A lot of us are grappling with this idea of working our full-time jobs and trying to support our kids while they're doing school and figuring out busing and daycare and all the things. Making sure you set aside time for yourself. And I know that's so much easier said than done. Those words flow out of my mouth very easily, but I'm probably among the worst in doing just what I'm talking about. But it's really important. making sure that you give yourself some grace and know that you're doing the best you can as we navigate through these really, really tricky scenarios and situations. And like I said, I was going to mention this earlier, but it says parents, but really it's whoever is the primary caregiver for your kids. We may have grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, friends on this webinar or on this class. It's whoever the adults are in these kids' lives. Positive experiences, kids having positive experiences with adults, they may not say, this interaction is really going to shape who I become as an adult. Actually, they're not going to, because that would be a weird thing for kids to say. But they will store it in different parts of their brain, and it clicks back in like flashbulb moments. And they remember the things we say, the things we do, and our attitudes and beliefs about things. We are shaping them in literally everything we do and say, and the things we don't do and don't say. So just keep in mind that you set the tone, whether you're a biological parent, step parent, or just an adult person who's taking care of kids. Your role is important. They're watching you. And just know that what you do absolutely matters. All right. The hope is you don't need this slide because things are going beautifully. But if they're not, if I haven't said this enough so far tonight, communication's key. Maybe take a step back, get some perspective, and ask yourself those questions of, am I being reasonable with what I'm asking for? Am I being reasonable with what I'm expecting? Do I need to reevaluate, kind of some of our structure? Remember earlier, we talked a lot about flexibility and being able to be flexible with kind of some of that give and take. So communication is key. You don't know what other people need if you don't ask the questions. So please try not to assume that they know what you need from them or you know what they need from you. Got to have those conversations. I'm kind of famous for saying, this kind of goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway, because I don't leave anything out there to chance. Ask everything, tell everything, and have that communication. Communicate with the school, even if you're doing the virtual or online learning. I have a lot of, because of my role as a school-based services manager, I have a lot of contacts with folks up at the school. And, even pre-COVID, even before all this stuff started, I would have parents or caregivers come to me with X, Y, or Z going on. And when I would talk to my collaterals at the school about it, they have no idea. So being sure that we're all communicating the same information, the same language is really important. And, like I tell people I work with, please be mindful to not let your communication get lost in the delivery, because things are tense right now. And when people are upset or passionate about what they're doing, sometimes the message can get lost in the delivery. So just being mindful of that is a really important piece. After you've reevaluated, your own stuff, the schedule, the flexibility, you've reevaluated things on your own level, you've reached out to the school and talked to them, things are still not going well, it may be time to kind of go out another level, another layer, and reach out to your child's pediatrician or primary care physician. If there may be something medical happening, there could be something developmental happening that's a barrier for your child to be successful. And, I'm not suggesting that changes you make at home wouldn't affect that, but knowing what's going on will help guide you in what changes need to be made, if there are any. And that's kind of the next recommended step, is to reach out to them, explain what's going on, and see if you can have them looked at, have them checked out, just to make sure everything on that side of things is going okay. Community support. Throughout all of this, I have been really, I choose to focus not on what's going wrong in the world, but what's going right, and looking for heroes, looking for supports, looking for people who are there to help, because they're out there, and it's just a matter of you getting connected with them. So this could be a local community organization, it could be a church organization near you. I've been in recent contact with some folks up at CRC and Boys and Girls Club, and they've got some really, I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag because nothing's finalized yet, but we've got some really interesting things that we're trying to work on and develop to better support the families and kids in Shawnee County. So if you don't ask for it, it's hard to get help sometimes. And this is a time, now more than ever, that please don't feel shame, blame, or judgment in asking for help, because nobody's ever experienced this before, not in this way for sure. And some of the online forums, some of the social media forums are really positive. Some are terrible. So just, I'm not saying do what I do, but your energy is going to go where you put your focus. So if the focus is on the negative stuff, it'll drain you. It just will. So if you can find the ability to shut that off and focus over here on what's going well, that's going to energize you. I mean, that's how the chemicals in our brain work. And there's support and help out there if you know where to look for it and how to ask. And last but not least, you can't forget us here at Family Service. We're always here to help. We've got people available 24/7. And that can be for just consultation, evaluation. I mean, it's like Mary Poppins bag of things we can do once you get in touch with us. So there's tons of things on our website, on our Facebook page, and I mean, just stuff for days. So, don't forget that we're here. We want to help and support you and your family as you go through this very trying time. All right, last but certainly not least, I copied and pasted this from something I found online, and it talks about mom sets the tone, that little mantra on the left there, but please, cross out mom and put yourself in there, whether you're the aunt, the grandma, the dad, the stepmom, the whoever you are. Again, we've talked about this, the adult taking care of the kids, no matter how it might go, we set the tone, they're looking to us. And, we got to think, what kind of kids are we trying to raise? Ones that are, feeling bad about things, but they have to go through them, or ones that say, you know what, I might fall down, I might have some struggles, but I got people behind me and I can do this. And just reiterating again, one last time, that we can do tough stuff. I don't think people recognize or always realize what they're capable of doing until really kind of put to that task. And this is one of those things. I've had this conversation with my team recently about this transition back to school and supporting the kids. And I said, we are flexible, we're skilled, we're driven, we're motivated. If we can't do this, then who will? We have to start somewhere, set the tone, and be ready to adjust. And they all just kind of went, you know what, you're right. The meeting started in a much different way and it ended because we can do this. And we're just doing it together with what we already know. So that is the end of what I had to share tonight. Pam, were there things popping up in comments or anything that I need to?
No, not yet. But if anybody has questions, if you would type them in the chat feature of Zoom. Most of the time it's on the bottom of your screen, and we'll be monitoring that. If you have a particular question about how best to support your child, if you have a concern about how best to do that, please do go ahead and type it in the chat box. Like I said, at the very beginning, we want to make sure that these sessions are useful to you. And Lord knows, there's so many questions these days. And Jenny, you hit it on the head. It's, as a parent, as a caregiver, as someone who just loves and cares for a child, no matter what the age, it's a lot right now. So please do, if you're wondering, if anything that Jenny has said, sparked a question, please do just type it in the chat box, so that we can help in any way that we can tonight.
Yeah, it's a tough time to be a parent of a school-aged child, or really involved in any of this process, because there's a lot going on.
Yeah. And so many changes that we all have experienced here at FSGC. There, for a time, we didn't have the ability to see clients face to face because we were all under a stay-at-home order. Now the option is now again available to have face-to-face services, but not everybody's comfortable coming in face-to-face. So we continue to offer the services via telephone or televideo, and we'll continue to do that so long as we can, manage that through billing and all of those behind-the-scenes stuff. That's, I'm so glad I don't have to go through those waters. But it's important to us to serve the kids and the families in the community. Boy, Jenny, you must have done a heck of a job, because I'm not seeing any questions pop up. And please know, though, too, if you have concerns about your child, loved one, you're seeing some behaviors that might be troubling, and you've tried everything, or maybe you're just wondering, we encourage you to reach out early, because the sooner we can get the help that the child needs, the more successful he or she will be down the road. It just helps to catch it early, as opposed to when things blow up and become a really big deal. So I just shared that.
Yeah, they, I often say, because I hear lots of things in this office, and I, give parents that reassurance is, people don't come see people like me at the first sign of trouble. That's not how that goes. It's usually years in the making. I also teach a mental health first aid class, and, this is for kids and adults, but the median age of people seeking professional treatment is 10 years. So Pam's right. Early intervention is key to prevent things from escalating or going beyond that. But especially right now, we're just in unprecedented times. It's just hard to know what to do.
Yeah. But I got to say, kudos to each and every one of you who tuned in tonight, because you're already making steps. You are trying to find tips, tools, and do everything you can. And that's not always an easy thing to do. First off, everybody's busy. But really, thank you. And you should pat yourself on the back, because that's an important step. So again, thank you. And well, Jenny, I think you might be off the hook. I'm not seeing any questions at this time. But any final words? I think I'm talked out. I don't have anything else.
Right? I can go, you know me, I can talk.
I know. Yeah.
But
but
I know at least a handful of people are cooking dinner, because I know I heard earlier something smelling good. Somebody's talking about something at their house smelling good. So, but no, I'm very much a broken record, but I also believe that consistency is key, and just be kind to each other, do the best you can, communicate, expect change, and be flexible.
Yeah. Well, great.
That's what we can do, right? That's what we can control right now.
That's right. That's right. And Jenny, thank you so much for taking the
Of
time.
course.
We appreciate it. And to everyone who stayed on, stay well, take good care of yourselves, and we hope you'll join us again maybe for another session down the road. So take care.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Bye-bye.